In the distant reaches of the universe, where vast deserts stretched under twin suns, Cade Renard worked tirelessly. The human man, rugged from years of hardship and war, now found himself on the barren, unforgiving planet of Ida 7, serving out the remainder of his days as a nomadic engineer. His job was simple: repair the broken machines that passed through the outpost, maintain the equipment for scavengers, and survive the desert's blistering heat. One day, as he toiled under the scorching suns, he received an unexpected transmission from the Galactic Federation. A shuttle hovered over the horizon, kicking up sand as it descended into the dusty clearing. When Cade approached the ship, two armored figures emerged, their dark silhouettes barely visible against the gleaming ship's hull. Behind them walked something far more striking: a female figure, tall and regal, her silvery blue skin marked with intricate glowing tattoos. Her large violet eyes scanned the barren landscape with calm indifference. "Cade Renard," one of the soldiers asked, stepping forward. "That's me," Cade replied, his voice gruff and skeptical. "We're delivering your assignment," the soldier said, nodding toward the alien girl who stood silently, her long silver hair flowing like a waterfall of stars. "This is Liera of the Sty race. She's been exiled by her people for disobedience and has been sentenced to servitude by the Federation as part of a rehabilitation program." Cade blinked in disbelief. "What? I didn't sign up for this." The soldier didn't seem to care. "She's yours now. The Federation doesn't take exile lightly. You're responsible for her." Liera, standing tall and defiant, made no motion to bow or show submission despite her sentence. Cade could see the fire in her eyes, a burning pride she wasn't ready to extinguish. As the soldiers left, Cade was left alone with the alien woman, the wind howling softly over the desolate plains of Ida 7. "I'm not your master," Cade said firmly, breaking the silence. "I didn't ask for this." Liera's gaze shifted to him. "I am not a slave. I am a warrior. But my people, they have cast me out." Her voice was soft yet powerful, and something in her tone told Cade that whatever she had done, she didn't regret it. She had defied something much larger than herself, something she refused to yield to. "Look," Cade said, scratching the back of his neck awkwardly, "I'm just a mechanic out here. I don't need a slave, warrior, or whatever. You can stay if you want, but you're not bound to me." Liera regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "You would let me go, even though the Federation gave me to you?" Cade shrugged. "I don't need anyone shackled to me. If you want to leave, go ahead. But the desert's harsh, and there's no way off this rock unless you've got a ship." Liera's violet eyes softened slightly, though the proud set of her shoulders didn't waver. "Then I will stay. For now." Over the weeks that followed, Cade and Liera coexisted in the remote settlement. Cade was used to the solitude, but Liera's presence changed something. She was not the submissive creature the Federation intended her to be. Instead, she worked alongside him, fixing machines with fierce efficiency and proving her knowledge of advanced technology far beyond anything Cade had seen. Despite her pride, Liera began to open up about her past. She told him of the Sarthi, a warrior race with strict codes of honor and obedience. She had been a high-ranking officer in their military, but when ordered to commit an atrocity in the name of tradition, she refused. "It was this act of rebellion that led to my exile. I would rather be cast out than follow an order that would stain my soul," she explained one night as they sat around a fire outside Cade's shelter. Cade, listening intently, nodded. "I get it. I was a soldier once, too. Fought in some of the worst conflicts out there. Sometimes it's hard to live with what they ask of you." Their conversations became more frequent, the tension between them easing with each shared story. Liera, for all her alien heritage, began to feel less like an outsider and more like a companion, someone who understood the weight of the burdens Cade carried. In return, Cade taught Liera about the simpler life he had carved out for himself. Together, they repaired scavenger ships, and Cade found himself relying on her, not just for her skills but for her calm presence. But underneath it all, the Federation's decree lingered, a reminder that Liera was not truly free. Life on Ida 7 was harsh, and danger lurked in more than just the desert storms. Raiders often roamed the wastelands, scavenging whatever they could from the outposts. Cade had survived their attacks before, but they became more frequent as the months passed. One night, a group of raiders ambushed Cade's shelter, guns blazing. Cade and Liera fought back, their movements coordinated like seasoned soldiers. But as the raiders grew more aggressive, it became clear they were after something more than just supplies. "You can't have her," one of the raiders snarled, pointing his gun at Liera. "The Sty exile. She's worth a fortune on the black market." Liera's eyes narrowed, glowing in the dark like twin stars. In a blur of movement, she disarmed the raider, tossing him to the ground with the ease of a seasoned warrior. As the raiders fled, Cade stood beside Liera, both of them breathing heavily from the battle. He realized then how much he had come to depend on her, not just as an ally, but as something more. "They'll come back," Cade said grimly, wiping blood from a cut on his brow. "They want you." Liera stood tall, unflinching. "Let them come. I will not be taken." After the raid, Cade and Liera grew closer, their relationship shifting from one of mutual respect to something deeper. Cade found himself drawn to her strength, her honor, and her unwavering sense of self. Liera, in turn, saw in Cade a man who had been through his own struggles, a man who, like her, carried the weight of defiance. One night, after repairing a broken-down freighter, Cade finally voiced what had been on his mind for weeks. "You know you don't have to stay here. You're not bound to me, Liera. You could leave if you wanted." Liera, standing under the twin moons of Erida 7, turned to him. "I could leave, but I don't want to. I choose to stay with you." Cade's heart raced. He had never expected this. Never expected to feel anything for an alien woman who had been sent to him as punishment. But as he looked at her, standing proud and unbroken, he realized that it wasn't just companionship he felt. It was love. Months turned into years, and what had begun as a strange, forced partnership had blossomed into something far more profound. Cade and Liera were inseparable, their bond forged not by the Federation's decree, but by their shared experiences, their battles, and the quiet moments in between. One evening, under the stars of Erida 7, Cade took Liera's hand in his. "I've been thinking. I don't want to just survive out here anymore. I want more with you." Liera's violet eyes glowed softly, her expression tender. "You wish to bond with me by scifi? That is a sacred union." Cade smiled. "I don't know much about scifi, but I do know I want to spend my life with you." Liera's lips curved into a rare smile. "Then we will make our own law." And so, in the heart of the desert, amidst the stars and the endless sands, Cade and Liera were married. They were no longer bound by the laws of the Federation or the Surti. They were free, united by choice and by love. Together, they faced the challenges of the galaxy, exploring the unknown, protecting each other from the dangers that lurked in the shadows, and building a future neither of them had ever imagined. In the vastness of the universe, they had found something rare and precious. They had found each other. Years passed since Cade and Liera forged their union under the twin moons of Erida 7. Their days of quiet solitude on the desolate planet had faded into memory, replaced by new adventures as they took to the stars together. Their combined skills, Cade's mechanical genius and Liera's warrior prowess, spread across the galaxy, and their services were in high demand. They weren't just survivors anymore. They had become sought-after adventurers, often called upon to solve impossible problems in the galaxy's most remote corners. One evening, aboard their ship, the Star Seeker, Liera stood at the viewport, gazing into the infinite expanse. The void of space no longer felt as lonely as it once had. Beside her, Cade approached, his rough hands resting gently on her shoulders. "Where to next, Captain?" he asked with a teasing smile. "We are." Liera's violet eyes sparkled with amusement. Though they often joked about rank, they both knew they led as equals. There's a signal coming from the nebula rim. It looks like a distress call. Kate sighed and leaned against the wall, arms crossed. It's never easy, is it? Can't we just find a quiet planet and retire for a month or two? No raiders, no ancient alien tech trying to kill us. Liara smiled, her gaze softening as she glanced at him. Would you really be content sitting still? Kate chuckled. I suppose not. Trouble always finds us anyway. Liara turned back to the console, her fingers dancing across the controls. We'll follow the signal. If someone's in danger, we help. It's what we do. With a nod, Kate settled into the co-pilot's chair, flipping a few switches as the ship shifted course. All right then, off to the nebula rim. As the Star Seeker shot through hyperspace, leaving behind streaks of light and stars, neither Kate nor Liara could have anticipated the challenges that awaited them on this new journey. The distress call was only the beginning. When they reached the nebula rim, the Star Seeker dropped out of hyperspace and into a turbulent storm of electromagnetic energy. Swirling clouds of cosmic dust illuminated by flashes of lightning made visibility almost impossible. The distress beacon flickered faintly on their radar, buried deep within the nebula's chaotic depths. Kate frowned as he studied the ship's readings. This place is a mess. I'm surprised anyone survived out here long enough to send a signal. Liara's fingers tensed slightly as she piloted the ship through the storm, her keen instincts guiding them. The nebula's energy is making it difficult to get a lock on the signal's origin, but whoever sent it must have had advanced technology to transmit through this interference. After a tense hour of navigating through the nebula, the Star Seeker finally emerged into a clearing. Before them loomed a massive derelict starship, its hull battered and scorched from countless battles. The ship, once grand and formidable, now drifted aimlessly, a ghost in the depths of space. Kate leaned forward, his brow furrowing. That's Saritech. I recognize those markings. Liara's eyes darkened, memories flooding back of her people and the life she had left behind. The Sari starships were legendary for their advanced design, but this one seemed ancient, older than any she had encountered before. It's a relic, Liara whispered, from before my time, before the war that fractured my people. They docked carefully, the sound of the ship's hull creaking as they attached to the derelict vessel. As they donned their suits and prepared to board, Kate shot Liara a concerned glance. You all right? He asked, knowing full well the weight of facing her past. I am, she replied with determination, but I feel something familiar. Together, they entered the ancient Sirtic ship. The corridors were dark, the air thick with dust and the scent of time long past. But what unnerved Kate the most wasn't the emptiness. It was a distinct feeling that they were being watched. As they ventured deeper, the lights of their helmets flickered off rusted walls. They came across the remnants of the crew, skeletons of Sari warriors still clad in their battle armor. But there was no sign of what had killed them. Wait, Liara said, her hand resting on a door marked with ancient symbols she recognized all too well. This was a command ship, she murmured, a Sirtic warship. Kate stepped closer, studying the symbols alongside her. Looks like it's been here for centuries. But if it's so old, who sent the distress call? As if in answer, the door creaked open with a metallic groan. Inside was a massive chamber lined with strange machinery and holographic screens. In the center stood a stasis pod, its glass cracked but still glowing with a faint pulsing light. Kate's heart raced. Is that ARTI? Liara finished, stepping forward to examine the pod. Inside, suspended in stasis, was a Sari woman, her tattoos marking her as a high-ranking officer much like Liara once was. But there was something different about her, an ancient energy, a power that seemed to hum from the machinery keeping her suspended. Before they could react, the chamber lit up and a deep mechanical voice echoed through the ship. Unauthorized entry detected. Stasis protocol initiated. The machinery in the room came to life, and the pod began to glow brighter. Kate drew his weapon, But Liera held up her hand. "Wait," she said, her eyes wide. "I know her. This is Vise, a commander from the old days. She led the scifi fleets into battle before I was even born." Kate looked at the pod, then back at Liera. What's she doing in stasis? And why send a distress call now? Liera didn't have time to answer. The stasis pod hissed open, and the figure within stirred, her violet eyes opening to the world once more. Vise, the ancient commander, stepped out of the pod with an otherworldly grace, her eyes glowing brighter than Liera's. She scanned the room as if searching for the battlefield she had once commanded. Liera knelt, a sign of respect for a warrior of Vise's stature, but the old commander seemed disoriented, as if she had woken from a long nightmare. "Who are you?" Vise's voice was steady but cold, her gaze falling on Kate before settling on Liera. "A Seri who travels with a human? What madness is this?" Liera stood, her posture strong. "I am Liera, once of the Seri. I was exiled for defying our war council, and this man is Cade Renard, my partner and equal." Vise looked between them, her expression hardening. The Serdich War Council would not exile one of our own without cause. "What did you defy?" "I refused to carry out a massacre in the name of a war that had already destroyed too many lives," Liera said, her voice unwavering. Vise frowned, but before she could respond, the ship shuddered violently. An alarm blared through the speakers, and the mechanical voice returned, cold and ominous. "Containment breach imminent. Emergency lockdown engaged." Cade whipped around. "What the hell is happening?" Vise's face grew dark. This ship was not merely a warship. It was a prison for something we could not destroy. As the ground beneath them rumbled, the ship's ancient system struggled to hold back whatever had been kept locked away for centuries. Vise turned to Liera, her voice sharp with command. The trio sprinted to the crumbling corridors of the ship, dodging debris as the vessel's integrity began to fail. But as they reached the docking bay, a deep, guttural roar echoed through the ship, sending chills down Kate's spine. Liera's face was grim. "It's awake." Cade glanced at Liera, his grip tightening on his weapon. "What's awake?" "An enemy of the Seri," Vise replied, her voice filled with urgency. "A creature born from the chaos of the stars, a being of pure destruction. We sealed it here millennia ago, hoping it would never awaken." Liera's eyes narrowed. "And now it's free." Back aboard the Star Seeker, they barely had time to breathe before the ancient warship behind them exploded into a fiery blaze, unleashing the creature that had been trapped within. Its form, dark and twisted, loomed large against the backdrop of space, its very presence distorting reality around it. Cade and Liera manned the ship's controls while Vise stood at the ready, her old battle instincts kicking in. "We can't outrun it," Cade said, his voice tight. "We have to fight." Liera's hand rested on his shoulder. "Then we fight together." With the ancient Serdich commander by their side, they faced the unknown once more, united by love, duty, and the unbreakable bond they had forged. Cade and Liera prepared to confront the darkness, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together. The creature from the Serdich ship loomed in the distance, its form a writhing mass of shadow and energy pulsing with chaotic power as it floated in the vacuum of space. Tendrils of dark energy extended from its body, bending light and matter around it, warping the very fabric of reality. Vise stared at the monstrosity with a hardened expression. "This is no ordinary creature. It is a celestial wraith, born from the collapse of stars. It feeds on energy, on life itself. We failed to kill it ages ago, and now we may not have the strength to defeat it." Kate's eyes darted to Liera, his heart pounding. "There has to be a way. The Serdich built that ship to contain it, right? There must be something we can use against it." Vise shook her head, her voice grim. "The technology we used back then is lost. The Wraith can't be destroyed by conventional means." The Star Seeker shook violently as the Wraith's tendrils reached out, latching onto the ship's shields. Cade frantically punched commands into the console, trying to stabilize the ship, but the Wraith's power was overwhelming. The ship systems were draining rapidly, and the shields were failing. Liara turned to Vise, her violet eyes blazing with determination. There must be something in your memories, something the Sari knew, anything we can use to weaken it. Vise remained silent for a moment, her eyes closed as she searched the ancient memories of her people. Then suddenly, her eyes shot open. There is one way, but it requires a great sacrifice. Cade frowned. What kind of sacrifice? Vise stepped forward, her face calm yet resolute. The Wraith feeds on energy, but it can also be overwhelmed by it. A concentrated burst of energy from a living source could destabilize it long enough to destroy it, but the cost would be fatal for whoever provides that energy. Cade's heart sank. She knew what Vise was suggesting. No, Cade said, his voice firm. There has to be another way. We're not sacrificing anyone. Vise glanced at Liara, a silent understanding passing between them. The Wraith is too powerful. If we don't stop it now, it will consume everything in its path, every planet, every star. It will leave nothing but darkness in its wake. Liara felt the weight of the decision crushing down on her. She had spent her entire life fighting for survival, for redemption. Now, faced with the destruction of the galaxy, she realized that her journey had led her to this moment. She could save countless lives, but the price would be her own. No, Cade said again, stepping in front of her. I won't let you do this, Liara. We'll find another way. But Liara gently placed a hand on his chest, her eyes filled with love and sorrow. Cade, we both knew this day would come. I've always known that my past would catch up to me. This is my chance to make things right. Cade's breath hitched. His heart was breaking. Liara, don't. Please. She kissed him softly, her lips lingering against his for just a moment. You've given me more than I ever thought possible, Cade. I love you, and I'm not leaving you. This is the only way we can be free. Before Cade could stop her, Liara turned to Vise. What do I have to do? Vise nodded solemnly. I will transfer the energy conduit to you. Once the Wraith is destabilized, we must destroy it with all the ship's remaining firepower. As Vise prepared the conduit, Cade's hands trembled. He knew Liara was right, but the thought of losing her felt unbearable. He had spent so long fighting alongside her, falling in love with her, and the idea of facing the future without her tore him apart. I'll never forget you, Cade whispered, his voice shaking. Liara smiled through her tears. I'll always be with you, Cade, in every star, in every moment. The energy conduit surged to life, and Liara stepped forward, her body glowing with a brilliant violet light. The Wraith's tendrils recoiled as the raw energy radiating from her form struck the creature, sending waves of disruption through its chaotic body. Vise's face twisted in pain as the energy pulsed through her, but she stood strong, her resolve unshaken. She poured every ounce of her strength into the conduit, her life force entwined with the ship's systems, creating a surge of pure energy aimed directly at the Wraith. The creature shrieked, its form flickering and destabilizing as the energy overwhelmed it. Cade and Vise worked frantically at the controls, targeting the Wraith with the Star Seeker's weapons. With one final command, Cade fired the ship's entire arsenal at the Wraith, launching a barrage of missiles and plasma beams. The explosion that followed was blinding, filling the void of space with a brilliant white light. The Wraith's form shattered, its dark tendrils disintegrating into nothingness. The creature was finally destroyed, but as the light faded, Cade's heart shattered. Liara's body floated in the center of the room, her glowing form slowly dimming as the last of her energy ebbed away. He rushed to her, cradling her in his arms, tears streaming down his face. Liara, he whispered, his voice breaking. Please, please don't go. Her eyes fluttered open, her gaze soft and full of love. Cade, you have to let me go. I can't, he sobbed, holding her tighter. I can't do this without you. She smiled weakly. You'll never be without me. You have my heart always.